I mentioned before that my level of knowledge on different genres of games varies wildly. I know my stuff when it comes to, say, beat 'em ups, but I'm completely lost when it comes to rhythm games, for example. FPS games, though, are sort of an in between those two. I have never played a Halo or Duke Nukem game in my entire life. Yeah, I know. But I have played newer titles, such as Dusk and Medieval, the latter of which I've already reviewed, as well as classics such as Blood, Doom 1 and 2, and recently, Serious Sam, The First Encounter. Serious Sam was made by Croteam, a small team of developers hailing from the possibly made up country of Croatia. This is relevant because I feel it explains several elements of the game. More on that later. First off, what about that plot? Well, in the far future, a bunch of aliens led by a bad guy named Mental invaded Earth and royally messed us up. Humans, however, got their hands on an alien time travel thing and used it to send ultra badass Serious Sam Stone back in time to find a way to stop the bad guys before they destroy us. Following Sam is Natrixa, an AI companion that gives you flavor text about the story and your objectives. I have no idea if the series eventually goes for a more developed narrative, but as it stands in the first game, the plot is essentially just an excuse for gameplay, only a bit more narratively complex than something like Mario 3. Okay, that's enough about the barely present plot. What about the game itself? Well, Sam's movement is fine. His jump feels fine, though sometimes it can be a bit funky. You see, Sam can actually jump on top of enemies and use them as platforms, which leads to some weird moments where you'll jump to dodge an attack, and then an enemy will come running towards you and you'll just bounce off them and fly away. It's weird, and also never required at any point in the game, so I don't totally get why they added it. Other than that, the only complaint I have about Sam's movements is the lack of a sprint button. Jesus Christ, do I wish Sam had some way to increase his movement speed. There's some absolutely massive areas in this game, up to and including the final boss room, and for most of them, all you have access to is Sam's standard running speed, which is fine for more cramped levels but feels slow as molasses whenever you're placed on a football field of an arena, with items placed on completely different zip codes from one another. Granted, it can lead to some tense sections where you're racing to get health or armor across a sea of enemies, but overall, I think adding a sprint button wouldn't take away much from that and would improve the game greatly. In terms of weapons, the game is pretty standard. You have a knife that hits like a semi-truck, which is cool because it means the thing doesn't become totally useless the second you get a gun. There's a pair of revolvers with infinite ammo that weirdly become the sniper rifle of the game. There's a pretty baller double-barreled shotgun that'll jib weaker enemies at close range, which is always satisfying. There's a machine gun, there's a minigun, there's a laser turret, which all function pretty similarly to each other. The only difference is the rate of fire and the damage and the time it takes for the projectiles to travel, with bullets somehow traveling faster than laser shots. There's also a big, powerful gun, the seventh weapon, which is actually kind of unique. It functions like a hyper-strong version of the crossbow from Dusk, instead of, say, like the BFG from Doom. The arsenal is pretty fun, and I can say I got some use out of every weapon here, which isn't something I can say often. I'm one of those guys who likes to save up ammo for the strongest guns just in case, and ends up never using them, but not in Serious Sam. No, the game will force you to use everything you have if you're playing on anything above the lowest difficulty setting. More on that later. Okay, that's the guns taken care of. What about the bad guys you use the guns on? Well, you have your basic enemies, such as various headless soldiers who shoot at you from afar, some monsters who just hit you from close range. The more high-level enemies include these green guys that shoot homing projectiles that you can destroy. There's also these big walkers who shoot rockets, and oh yeah, there's the single most annoying enemy in the game, the scorpions. Nasty sons of bitches with chain guns that hit you the instant they spot you. They suck for the same reason the chain gunners from Doom suck. This is a game built around quickly dodging enemy projectiles, but you can't do that with these guys. They hit you from a different planet and there's nothing you can do to avoid their attacks save hide from cover. It just kinda sucks. The second most annoying enemy for me has to be the Clear. These are the skeleton horses who have a very slow projectile attack from far away, but at a medium range, they'll lunge at you. Fighting about, I don't know, 5 to 10 of these guys is honestly fine, and actually a bit of fun. You just wait for them to lunge at you and just blow them away with the shotgun at the last second. But oh man, do they spam these guys like crazy later on. If you haven't played this game, you have no idea just how many Clear they throw your way at certain sections, to the point where by the end I was just sick of them. Ugh. The most memorable enemy in this game, however, has to be the Kamikaze. These are the headless guys who run at you carrying bombs and screaming loudly. If they touch you, boom. But you have to be deaf not to notice them approaching. That's actually something Serious Sam does pretty well. The game is good at giving the enemies distinct audio callouts that make sure that when they're near, even if you're not looking directly at them, you'll be aware of them. The audio is so well done, you can even parse different types of enemies and how far away they are pretty accurately by sound alone, and trust me, you'll kinda need that. In terms of aesthetics, I mentioned before that the game involves time travel, but if you thought this means you get to travel to all kinds of different settings across time and space, you're wrong. The game takes place almost entirely in ancient Egypt. Only during a brief section at the end do you see something different. If you find the ancient Egyptian aesthetic dull or boring, well, I think you can more or less give up on this game. Personally, I think it looks fine. Nothing about the aesthetics on either the original version or the HD remake really blew me away, except for the skyboxes. Those are actually pretty cool. The soundtrack, however, is pretty nice and features a bit more variety than you might expect, with some Eastern sounds, but also some orchestral music, some downright crazy rock songs, and some polka. Yeah, polka. Alright, that's the technical aspects out of the way. Let's talk about the game design itself. The two things I knew about Serious Sam going in were the ridiculous enemy counts and the extreme difficulty. Both are completely and unequivocally true. Despite being made in 2001, aka not long after Half-Life, the game is very old school in terms of its level design. You look for secrets, you press switches, and you fight monsters. There's no complex physics puzzles or anything like that for you to worry about. Just go ahead and kill aliens. Wow, sounds boring, you might say. No. No. If there's a word that cannot be used to describe Serious Sam, it's boring. It's hard to overstate the sheer insanity of certain sections of this game. It's no exaggeration to say sometimes the devs will just lock you into a room and make you fight literally thousands of enemies. Also, get ready for traps. Anytime you see the little pill, which gives you 1 point of health, seriously ask yourself if you need that, because there's a 75% chance any one of them will spawn about 50 enemies for you to fight. You will learn to fight each and every enemy in this game before the end, even the more high-level ones like the walkers, reptiloids, and the damn scorpions, because they just spam them that much. And this is where I get kind of split regarding Serious Sam. It's a tough game, no doubt about it. It's cruel, even. You can tell a lot of the encounters were just the result of the devs looking at each other and going, "Dude, you know what would be the funniest thing ever? What? If we just spawned like 50 scorpions in a wide open area, lol." I mentioned before that TFE has a bit of an old school design, and strangely, this game reminded me a lot of old arcade games like Ghosts and Goblins, and I think this is why. Those games, just like Serious Sam, were dead set on making sure you got your teeth kicked in. Whether the challenge ahead was manageable for new players was, at best, a secondary concern. Some people will dig that, others will absolutely despise it. Me? I'm not gonna lie, I find this kind of stuff charming at times. I'm just thinking of the devs spending hours coming up with ways to just screw you over. I don't know what to say, I just think it's funny. On the other hand, they really do go too far by the end. I looked up videos of people trying to get all the kills in every level, and it just seems like the single most unfun way of playing the game. I got to the final level just kinda wishing it was over. Okay, the first part of the final level was fun. They basically give you infinite health and ammo and just let you go crazy over massive waves of enemies. But everything after that was just a slog, including the final boss. And I don't know, if the final feeling I get from a game is thank God that's over, I don't know, that's not a great sign. So yeah, I'm sorry if you're a huge Serious Sam fan, but I can't really give this game a glowing recommendation. If you dislike games that are punishingly difficult, steer clear of this. But even if you enjoy them, I don't know that you'll love Serious Sam. It's not that kind of polished, difficult game, where it's hard, but on a technical level, everything works precisely as it should and there are no glitches. You know, like Devil May Cry 1 or Demon Souls. No. It's more the balls to the wall kind of hard, like the previously mentioned Ghosts and Goblins, where you're gonna have to put up with some technical issues here and there. All of that being said, I still had my fair share of fun with Serious Sam. I found it a super charming game, and I can cut it some slack because of the circumstances behind its making. You see, I said before Croteam weren't exactly a huge AAA studio or anything. These guys were underdogs, and they made Serious Sam partly just to prove they could make it. This explains a lot of the design decisions made here, I think. The football field arenas and oceans of enemies are here to prove that the engine could run all of that without the game breaking in two. And looking at it from that angle, it is damn impressive, especially for the time. The whole thing gives off the vibe of a bunch of FPS nerds who got together to make a game that paid homage to the tough-as-nails shooters of the 90s. And they did that before, every indie game ever was out there doing that. If I gave numerical scores, Serious Sam, the first encounter, would get a 6 out of 10. But the good kind of 6 out of 10. The kind where you crack a smile, remembering the best moments, and conceding its faults just makes you feel like a buzzkill. It's hard to love this game, but it's harder to hate it. Oh, and one final note. It might be kind of hard for you to tell which version of the game you should get, so let me just make this clear. If you're at all interested, I say just go on Steam and get the HD remake version, right? Because that'll give you access both to, of course, the HD remake, but also the original version, and also a fan remake. So yeah, just go on Steam and get the HD remake if you're at all interested. Well, that's it for today's video. I hope you guys enjoyed it. If you did, please like, share, and subscribe. See you guys soon when I'll be starting a new project, a 4-part series on the first 4 movies written and directed by Quentin Tarantino. Till next time.